Hi, and welcome everybody to the Property Cashflow Show. My name's Latto, and we're filming here in the villa in Spain, which is where we live these days. We lived here for about 6 years. But in this session, I wanted to talk to you about how we actually manage the portfolio that's back in the UK. So we've been growing this property portfolio for about 20 years, over 20 years now. And we've had its ups and downs, it's like anything. We got through 2007, 2008, and that has its challenges, shall we say. We obviously in lockdown right now, and that's got a few challenges, shall we say. We've got tenants moving out back to Kuwait, so that was interesting. We had another tenant moving back to Romania. We've got people who've moved out and they've got a moth infestation, which they never told us about, but were getting quite upset with us when they were asking for their deposit back before they'd actually left the place. And actually when we got into the place, we worked out why they were so angry about getting that deposit back, and it's because the place was just an absolute mess, just an absolute tip, and that's the whole point of having deposits in the first place. However, here we are. We got viewings lined up. We'll get those viewings done, and we'll get people moved in the next couple of days, I imagine. We had one in Manchester just last week, and they moved out. They had to go back to their own country on government orders. Literally just left. TV's still there. All the bedding's still there, some clothes are still there, they just left. They sent me a message, just let you know I've left, giving the keys to a friend. And it's like, well, how do you manage that stuff when you live so far away? We live 1,000 miles away from where the properties are located in Leeds and Manchester and Doncaster and kind of mostly West Yorkshire based, but mostly Leeds. How do you manage that when you're not local to it? And so there's a couple of things here I want to talk to you about. The first one is about, you kind of have this expectation that it's easier to buy a place and manage a place that's within your local area. And that's true to the extent that you are going to get pulled into it and you're going to be the one that's having to deal with everything. And if that's how you want to run your business, then that's great. That's not a problem at all. But if you're like me and I don't want to run a business like that, I don't want to be going around and fixing things and fixing a toilet and painting a windowsill and doing all this extra stuff, measuring blinds or curtains. I don't want to do any of that. I was just playing basketball outside actually, and we were just reminiscing about those times when we could go for an ice cream before lockdown. We'd just walk down, have a nice ice cream. But I'd rather be doing stuff like that than having to deal with move-ins, move-outs and viewings. So it's fine buying local to where you are, but you've got to understand that you are going to then be the one who does everything. You can't help it even. And actually, me moving out of the UK and coming here and living in Spain actually increased rent revenues. It increased my time off. It increased my business revenues. And the reason why all that increased is that I could no longer be the person who's having to go out and do viewings and move-ins and move-outs and all the little bits that come into actually managing a portfolio with a lot of properties in it. I ended up doing everything. I don't want to be doing everything. I'd much rather be here getting sunburned, whatever. So how do you do it then? So what we've got in place is we've got a cleaner and we've got 2 handymen. And you might go, that's sexist, Dan, they're not handymen, they're handy people. Well, they're both male, so they're handymen. Deal with it. So we've got a cleaner and we've got 2 handymen, and they kind of do multi-various things, basically. Multi-various, that's definitely a word I've just made up. So what do they do? So the cleaner, for example, she's a cleaner, but really she's just she's very nice, and she's someone's just little old grandlady. Do you know what I mean? Grandma. She's just someone who's really, really nice. She's very disarming when tenants meet her. So we ask her to do viewings and move-ins and move-outs and key handovers and all of that kind of thing. And actually, she's the best person to do that stuff because of a couple of reasons. Reason number one is if the tenants are moving out and they hand the keys to her, she can get straight in and clean. Great. Often what happens is that a tenant moves out like 9 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock. The cleaner will go in and clean, and the new tenant will usually come in. So the cleaner gets the keys off one and hands them over to the other cleaner, to the new tenant, I should say. And that's very, very efficient because we've got 0 voids. I tend not to do voids. We've got 2 empty flats right now because people have just upped and left back to their own countries. And we've got viewings lined up today and tomorrow. and we will get those rented in the next couple of days, and the tenants will be in start of the next month, effectively, which is a couple of days. So the cleaner gets the keys off the old tenants and hands them to the new tenants after doing the cleaning, or the old tenants have done the viewings for new tenants. They've liked it, and the new tenants move in and get the keys, and the cleaner goes and cleans as the new tenants are moving in. We do that too, because we don't want voids. Basically, voids are the thing that we want to avoid as much as possible. So the cleaner is actually the best person to do that. She then, when a tenant agrees to move in, she creates the tenancy agreement. We send her a copy of the tenancy agreement, and the tenant just fills it in. It's all pre-signed, so she literally gets the copy. She sends me pictures on WhatsApp. I put that on my laptop, which gets backed up. She then takes the paperwork home, puts it in her storage. She's got all the keys, all the paperwork, but she sends me copies as well. We've got a little spreadsheet that covers everything off. It's really efficient. And bear in mind, we run a lettings agency for 10 years. I ran a lettings agency for 10 years, which was sold, it must be 10 years ago now, something like that. 10 years, 8 years, I don't know how long it was. So we understand the process of finding tenants, moving tenants in. And back then, when we first started up this letting agency, 2001 maybe? Yeah, about 2001. I think I was 29, 30 when we started up that lettings agency. And we started it up because I handed mine over to a letting agent in Leeds, and they just left all my stuff empty. So I was like, well, I can mess this up just as much as anybody else can. So we set up the letting agency without really knowing what to do, and obviously we learned as we went through, and a very successful letting agency that we sold. So we've got a lot of experience in terms of how we actually systemize some of this stuff. So we know that, for example, in order to rent a place, your headline on your advert, it's got to be really good. It's got to be really catchy. Is there any specialities in that property that people should know about? So, for example, we don't do deposits anymore. We've made a decision not to take deposits, but paying in the backside. You've got to give them all the documentation they have to sign. We're not very good at that. We then have to protect the bond. We're not very good at that. We hate doing all that stuff. Hate paperwork. Hate authority. That's just us. So we just easy not to take the deposits and actually put the rents up, and we get to keep the increase in rent rather than give that back later. So that's why we do that. So you've got to have a headline, you've got to have a description, you've got to have images, and they've got to be all good. Simple. And obviously these days, in fact, today, I'm just getting the cleaner on the empty property to do a virtual tour where she's just going to walk around. She doesn't have to say anything. I'm going to do a voiceover on that. I'm going to send it over to our video guy, and I'm going to make it really sexy. Put some music on it, have a little thing about leads, have all these transitions on it. It's going to be really cool. Benefit of owning your own digital marketing agency, I guess. So you've got to have a headline, you've got to have a description, you've got to have some great images, and ideally a video, and then you put it out live onto Rightmove or onto Gumtree, and we upload everything using OpenRent, and it goes out onto all of those, and then the leads come through. I don't phone anybody up, I just text them. If they're a bit offish with me, they don't get through to the next stage, basically, which the next stage is a viewing. We qualify everybody. When are you moving in? Who's moving in? What do you do for a living? Where's your money coming from? How much money have you got that's coming in? If you're under 25, we need a guarantor, because the government under 25 don't pay local housing authority benefits. So we have all that covered, and people get really upset and angry sometimes. Well, how dare you ask me how old I am? What's it got to do with you? I'm just the guy that you're paying your money to. That's what it's got to do with me. If you don't like that, that's okay. You can jog on. There's so many tenants coming through all the time. Even in lockdown during COVID-19, there's still a lot of tenants coming through. So we've got to market the property properly. We've got to set up the viewings properly, but they've got to be pre-qualified. I do all the pre-qualification myself. It doesn't take a lot of time at all. I actually really enjoy it. Hopefully we piss off a couple of people on purpose, and then they go, well, ugh. Great. They were dreadful tenants to begin with because they look their own backsides. We don't want those kind of tenants. So they kind of qualify themselves out because they go off in a huff, which is great. You know me, I'm happy to polarize people. They either love me or hate me. Either is great. It just doesn't bother me anymore. Hopefully they love me, but if they don't, that's okay. It's not a problem. You don't have to rent from me. Go rent from somebody else. It's not a problem. So then when we agree on a tenant, we do all the paperwork electronically. I was looking at buying a letting agency about 15 years ago. We went into this letting agency. I had this bright yellow Porsche 911. I walked in this Hawaiian shirt at the time, and this guy just looked me up and down. Was quite offended. He was in his 50s, ran a letting agency for 30 years, and I was like fresh and Porsche 911, and it's quite funny really. But he was just very upset with us, and he couldn't get his head around the fact that you didn't need an office to get people to sign. Well, when are you going to get them to sign? Well, we'll get them to send the money first, the deposit, and then on the day of the move in, they either sign the contract there, or actually, it's, well, now, not 15 years ago, but even 15 years ago, we still lived in an electronic age. People can print it out, scan it, send it back again. It's all nice and easy. Why are you complicating it? The big thing for me is that this doesn't need to be complicated, and it shouldn't be complicated. This should be really, really simple for people to do. For tenants, so we just moved a tenant in last week, and he was like, my gosh, this is the easiest process I've ever had of renting a place out. And that's like music to our ears, because that's exactly what it should be. All these hoops that people have to, the dog's just barking there, all these hoops that people have to go through and jump through in order to get into a place, not the qualification procedure, but actually to get into a place, are just getting in the way of closing business. It's like, when you phone an estate agent up and you go, can I view that property? And they go, yeah, a week on Monday. And you're like, what do you mean a week on Monday? I won't want it a week on Monday because I've forgotten what I wanted. I want to view it tomorrow or the next day. And estate agents do this, don't they? They go, oh, well, we're very busy, when they're not. I can see you're sat in your office. I'm sat outside phoning you through the window. I can see just how not busy you are, and yet you're too busy to book me an appointment in for the next 10 days. No wonder you're losing money as an estate agent, You're there to close business. You should be closing business. And me as a landlord, I'm there to get a tenant into the property. What am I putting all these obstacles in the way? The only obstacles I want is the pre-qualification obstacles. Once they're qualified, in my mind, and that's like good income, source of income, potential guarantor, I feel confident about this person's ability to pay the rent. Really, I don't care about anything else, just this person's ability to pay the rent. Everything else is irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. You could be a mass axe murderer who's done your time, you've come out, and you've got a good source of income. I don't mind because people make mistakes. Whatever those mistakes are from one extreme to another, all right, maybe that's not a great example, but you know what I mean. It just doesn't bother me at all. As long as you pay rent and don't murder us, that's fine. So that's for me is the qualification process. But then these estate agents put all these other obstacles in the way, 10-day viewings, it's crazy. So they've got past the qualification stage, they've gone to see it, and we've organised it electronically for the tenancy agreement, and then it's just down to the cleaner to go, there's the keys, there's the signed agreement, thanks very much, we've all been paid, they're in. That's it. Nice and easy. So really, that's it. We've got people who do multiple jobs. So like with one of our handymen, Pete, a great guy, he does viewings for me. He hates doing viewings. He hates it. He leaves everything in a mess anyway. When he's doing his painting and everything's all out, I'm like, Pete, you need to tidy it up a little bit. Oh, all right then. And he's like, do I have to do anything? No, you just open the door, let the tenants walk around. They'll choose whether they want to buy it or not, rent it or not. There's no sales job to do. The product sells itself. If they want a penthouse flat in the middle of Leeds City Centre, and there's only so many penthouse flats available, and one of them happens to be mine, then there's a good probability we'll take mine. The rents are massively higher than market value. The quality of the product's very, very good. So they rent themselves effectively to these units. The only times that we actually have problems on renting stuff is when a tenant's moved out and they've left it in a real state. And we get a cleaner in, we give her 4 or 5 hours, and then the next viewing starts, like literally that same day. And we just had this actually. We had a tenant for this really nice flat we've got in Leeds, and it was all good to go. But even on the second viewing, we were still tidying this flat up. That's how much of a state that this property was in. And so in the end, we said no. And it's got a moth problem, and his girlfriend has asthma, I think it was. And he's like, oh, we just can't do it, as much as we like it. And we need to replace carpets, by the way. No, carpet shops are open. It's going to be quite a testing time, I think, to get that one rented out. But we'll do it one way or another. We'll find a way. As soon as the carpet thing's resolved, we'll move the carpets in. We'll let the tenants know that that's what's going to happen. And hopefully somebody will take it. And more than likely they will. But that's literally how we manage a multi-million-pound portfolio in Leeds from here at the villa in Spain. I do all the human contact stuff via text message, or WhatsApp is our preferred mechanism, or email. Very, very rare do I speak to someone on the phone. They go, can I phone you? And I go, why? I've got some questions. Great, ask me the questions on WhatsApp or email. So they ask me the questions, and they're just questions that anyone could have asked on email. Why do you need to speak to me on the phone? I don't want to speak to people on the phone. Very few people have my phone number. If you have got my phone number, you are very privileged, by the way. because nobody gets it, right? I just don't want people. I mean, you can do if you're WhatsApping, but nobody phones me. Phones are 1970s technology. No thanks. Just WhatsApp me. Send me a message. Send me a smiley face or a thumbs up. I'm not interested in phone calls. Oh, hey, how are you doing? Oh, not so bad. How's the coronavirus? Oh, not so bad. What are you doing now? Oh, how's work? Just, what's your question? When can I move in? Immediately. What's your next question? How much was the deposit? No deposit. What's your next question? Can I move in tomorrow? Yes. Like, that's it. How much more difficult do you want to make this? There's a few extra bits in there. What do you do for a living? When do you get paid? Send me a copy of your pay slip. Send me a copy of your bank account. We don't always do that. If you're under 25, I need a guarantor. I need your guarantor's phone number, because we're going to message them and make sure they understand what a guarantor actually means. They're equally liable, just as much as the tenant is. Should the tenant damage anything or not pay rent, they are equally, well, severally and jointly and severally liable, I think is technically the term. So we want to make sure that they understand what they're getting into as a guarantor. And some of them just don't have a clue. So we message them and go, you know, you're liable if your tenant doesn't pay rent. Go, what? Oh, no, I don't want to do that. No. And then some of them, we have mums and dads, but mums this particularly occurs with. And they go, yeah, I'll be a guarantor, but only for like a month. Well, that's not how this works. What's the chances of him not paying rent in month 1? 0. Because he can't get into the place, you know. But, well, I want to come off being a guarantor in month 2. Well, that still doesn't work like that. You're a guarantor forever as far as I'm concerned. I know from a legal point of view, it's supposed to be for the duration of the tenancy agreement, and then it goes periodic, and generally they're not included on that. But we'll push that. We'll push the guarantor to go, you know, it was in 12 months and he's left after 14 months. And they might go, well, I'm not liable anymore. No, you totally are. We're going to issue county court proceedings unless you give us the rent that's missing or the damages. And they'll usually do it. And so we sometimes have to push the boat a little bit on that in order to get paid from the tenant. Obviously, we'll sue both the tenant and the guarantor if that needs to be in place. But there's no reason, you know, this is standard stuff. There's no reason you can't do this no matter where you live. Now, there's one other thing I want to talk about before we go right here. And this is the fact that if you haven't got enough yet, that's actually the problem. If you've not got enough, that's the problem. And what I mean by that is if you've got 1 property in Manchester or 3 properties in Manchester and you live in Leeds, let's say, that's a problem. And it's a problem because you haven't got enough resources to be able to deal with it. So, like, we've not got many properties in Manchester. Most of mine are Leeds-based. I've got a couple in Manchester, a couple in Doncaster, and pretty much everything's Leeds. But that's a problem. Even Doncaster's a pain because it's still 45 minutes away. So for me to get a handyman there, it's an hour and a half round trip to fix a lock or to do some painting or whatever. So it is a problem. If we had 20 properties in Doncaster, we would have a handyman in Doncaster whose sole job is just to manage Doncaster. So actually it was a mistake to buy a large bunch in Leeds, small ones in Doncaster and small ones in Manchester. And I even had one in Swindon, which we got rid of. And that was a pain in the backside as well, because it's 3.5 hours away. It's a 7.5 hour round trip. You've got to go, you've got to stay overnight. It's just a pain, absolute pain. Now, the other thing here, the third thing is that if you're using retail prices on your services, so if you're having a plumber and it's an £85 call-out fee, that's not going to work for you. If you're using a handyman and it's a £25 call-out fee, that's not going to work for you. We pay like £11, £12 an hour, and it doesn't matter what the job is. We send them to the job, and they're first eyes on the job. And usually a handyman can fix whatever the problem is, okay? I don't like £50 call-out fees. A 50 quid call-out fee, I might as well give my handyman 50 quid and go, here, do something for 5 hours. If it's £10 an hour, go paint something. You see that wall? Go cut that lawn. Just go knock on the door, speak to the tenant. Is there anything you want me to do? I've got 5 hours. I might as well get him to do that. If it's a boiler that he's looking at and it's an £85 call-out fee, that's 8.5 hours. It's a full day of work. I tell you what we'll do, Pete. Instead of me getting a call-out from a plumber and it costing me 85 quid for him to fix a boiler, how about you go have a look, see what we need to be done. If you can fix it there and then, great. And why not spend another 7 hours, paint his kitchen for him, or replace the tiling or the sealant around the bathroom, or whatever that happens to be. Let's do that instead. That's a much better use of my money. And then what happens over a period of time, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, is that you're slowly increasing the quality of your property. So we did this in a bathroom where I don't know why this slipped through. It was a 2-bed back-to-back, and in the bathroom, it basically had tiles, but they didn't go up far enough, and all the plasterboard was wet behind it. They were really old tiles. They looked really rank, quite frankly. And there was a leak on the shower as well. So we could have sent a boiler man round to fix that, a plumber to fix that. Cost us an arm and a leg. Instead, we sent the handyman round. We got him to measure up for the tiles. He pulled all the plasterwork off, put new plasterwork on, put new tiles on. Those white tiles with the black grout that look like letterbox tiles. What are they called? I can't remember. Masonry tiles. There's a specific name for them. Anyway, he did that. It cost me a little bit more because it was over 2 days because the stuff had to dry and then I had to go in, and cost a little bit more price of tiles. But honestly, that bathroom, woof, the quality of the product has increased. And if you can do that rather than spending money on emergency boiler men and that kind of thing, then you're going to actually improve the quality of your property over time. Anyway, hope that's useful for you. No comments or questions. So we'll catch up with you on Friday. Our timing's all over the place, by the way, at the moment. We're in lockdown, and we don't know what's going on. I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. We're homeschooling this morning. We've got Barbies to play with next with my 5-year-old. So it's, we'll fit these in when we can. We'll try and hit 12 noon UK time where possible. But if it is a little bit late, then I apologize. Anyway, we'll catch up with you on Friday, and we'll go speak to you at 12 noon for the Mindset and Hustle show. Other than that, have yourselves a good time. Stay safe, and we'll speak to you then. Take care.